Okay, so now that we've downloaded our files from the internet and saved it into the folder that you created on your desktop or wherever, whichever directory that you created your folder in, let's go ahead and launch the GIS website. And I've assumed that you guys are all able to install and download the software onto your computers. So let's go ahead and launch it. Open. So if this may look familiar to you, I went over this in class. This is the basic interface of a mapping software. When you load your maps, the different layers are going to show up in this column here, and this is called the table of contents area. And the map itself will show up in this whole area here, the canvas area. So let's bring in the three files that we downloaded, three layers that we downloaded from the internet. And to do that, we click on the Add Vector Layer button. There's two ways actually that you can add layers into this software. You can do it here, or you could go into Layers, go Add Vector Layer there. So two different ways that you could do it. Let's do it this way first. So make sure that it's a file encoding system. That's fine. Data set. Now you want to hit Browse and surf to where your directory is, and I saved mine in the desktop under the Marcus file, and I'm gonna go ahead and just download everything. And so as you can see, remember that each shapefile has 6 associated files, but when you open it up in Quantum GIS, all that's going to be available to you is the one that ends in SHP. So go ahead and open that, hit open, and you'll see that this is the InfoShare Community Districts file. Okay, so let's search through the attributes of this files for a bit. Now remember, I told you that each area has each shapefile has an associated table attribute to it, right? So what that means is that, let's zoom in. So we zoomed in, and each one of these areas are community districts, and you can think of this in terms of, in a tabular format, each one of these areas as like a line on the table, and each line has information about this particular area here. So let's look at that. Let's scroll to that. You right click and you say Open Attribute Table. So you can see that there's approximately 70 community districts in this particular shapefile, right? So we can choose whatever community district that we want. Okay, so each shapefile is going to have one of these tables associated with it, and you can look at we call that the attribute table, and you can look at the attribute table by just right clicking on this and say Open Attribute Table. Okay, so now let's bring in the other two files. Well, first of all, let's zoom out. Zoom to layer extent, which means that it zooms out to the full layer view. So let's bring in the other two layers. Again, go to System Directory, scroll to the folder where you saved your shapefiles in, which in this case is Marcus. Okay, Facilities now. Bring in this facilities file. You can see here. Hit open. Now again, these facility files, we talked about this in class, these are point files for social service facilities, right? If you open the attribute file table for this particular file, you can see that each dot has an associated facility name, zip code, capacity, all these good things. So there's about, you scroll all the way down, almost 19,000 facilities in this file. Okay, so now let's download or bring in the third file, which is the census tract file, and I'll show you why that's important in just a little bit. So you click on the census tract file, and again, you see because we brought in the census tract file at the very end, it's at the top, and so it covers the point file and the community district file. So think of this again as a layer of a cake. You want to, whatever file that you want to be on top, or whatever layer you want to be on the top, you have to move it up there. And the way to do this is pretty easy. You just drag and drop the layers that you want to be on the bottom. And now you can see that the dot files, the facility files, are now on top, right? So, and the next layer is the community district layer, and then the final layer is the census tract layer. But you could turn this on and off by just clicking this check button here. Okay, turn these layers on and off, and you can see each one at a time. Okay, so the census tract file then is exactly what it is. It's this 2000. It's the census tract based on the 2000 census. The tracks based on the 2000 census. So you can imagine that it'll be smaller than the community districts. Okay, so let's put the community districts as the bottom layer and the census tracts as the top layer, and let's zoom in to Lower Manhattan. So what we're looking at now is the census tract layer on top of the community district layer. If you click this on and off, you'll see that within each community district are a bunch of different census tracts. Okay, so each community district composes a number of census tracts. Now this is going to be important to know later when we join some demographic information to the census tract layer, so that you can make really nice maps on the demographic distribution of that particular community district. Okay,